Listen carefully. Everything you want, more success, more confidence, more money, better relationships, greater influence, depends on habits. Not talent. Not luck. Not timing. Habits. Most people spend their lives waiting for motivation. Highly effective people build systems. Most people react to life. Highly effective people direct life. The gap between where you are and where you want to be is not created by circumstances. It is created by daily behavior. In this audiobook, you will discover the 9 habits that separate producers from consumers, leaders from followers, and achievers from excuse makers. Learn them. Apply them. Repeat them. Because your future is hidden inside what you do every single day. Most people are waiting. Waiting to feel inspired. Waiting to feel confident. Waiting to feel ready. Waiting for the perfect opportunity. Waiting for the right mood. Waiting for tomorrow. And while they wait, life moves forward without them. The uncomfortable truth is that motivation is one of the most unreliable forces in the world. It comes and goes. It rises and falls. One day you feel unstoppable. The next day you feel exhausted. One morning you wake up determined to change your life. 2 days later, that determination has disappeared. If your success depends on motivation, your success depends on a feeling. And feelings are temporary. Highly effective people understand something that average people never fully grasp. They understand that motivation is not the engine. It is only the spark. The engine is discipline. Say that again. Motivation starts. Discipline finishes. Motivation starts. Discipline finishes. Motivation starts. Discipline finishes. This principle has built businesses, transformed bodies, created wealth, developed leaders, and changed lives. Think about the athlete who wakes up before sunrise to train. Do you believe that athlete feels motivated every morning? Of course not. There are mornings when the bed feels warm. There are mornings when the body feels heavy. There are mornings when every excuse seems reasonable. But the athlete trains anyway. Why? Because discipline has replaced negotiation. Highly effective people do not wake up and ask themselves whether they feel like doing the work. The decision has already been made. The work gets done. The average person negotiates. The effective person executes. The average person asks, "How do I feel today?" The effective person asks, "What needs to be done today?" That single difference changes everything. Consider the entrepreneur building a company. There are days when sales are low. There are days when customers complain. There are days when nothing seems to work. If the entrepreneur only worked when motivated, the business would never survive. Success belongs to those who continue after the excitement disappears. Anyone can work when they feel inspired. Anyone can chase a goal when energy is high. Anyone can be committed for a week. The real test begins when the emotion fades. The real test begins when the excitement disappears. The real test begins when nobody is watching. That is where discipline takes over. And discipline is a skill. Not a personality trait. Not a gift. Not something you are born with. A skill. And like any skill, it becomes stronger through repetition. Many people believe they need motivation before they take action. This belief keeps them trapped for years. Because action does not come from motivation. Action creates motivation. Read that again. Action creates motivation. Action creates motivation. Action creates motivation. Most people have the process backward. They sit and wait for energy. They wait for confidence. They wait for inspiration. But confidence is often the result of action, not the cause of it. Imagine standing at the bottom of a mountain. You cannot see the entire path. You feel uncertain. You feel nervous. You do not know whether you can reach the top. The average person waits until they feel confident enough to climb. The effective person takes the first step. Then another. Then another. And with each step, confidence grows. The confidence was not found before the climb. The confidence was created during the climb. This is how life works. Action creates emotion. Action creates momentum. Action creates belief. Think about every major achievement in your life: the first workout, the first job, the first business, the first presentation, the first difficult conversation. Were you fully confident before you started? Probably not. You became confident because you started. This is one of the greatest secrets of highly effective people. They do not wait to feel ready. They act until they become ready. The average person wants certainty. The effective person creates certainty through movement. Waiting feels safe. But waiting is often disguised fear. Fear of failure. Fear of rejection. Fear of embarrassment. Fear of being judged. The mind creates endless reasons to delay action. Tomorrow sounds safer than today. Later sounds easier than now. Eventually sounds more comfortable than immediately. But there is a hidden cost to waiting. Every day you delay action, you strengthen the habit of delay. Every time you postpone a goal, you teach your brain that postponement is acceptable. Every excuse practice becomes easier to repeat. Every delay becomes a habit. This is why highly effective people become obsessed with immediate action. Not reckless action. Not perfect action. Immediate action. When they decide something matters, they begin. They make the call. They start the workout. They write the first page. They launch the project. They take the first step. Because they understand a powerful truth. Motion destroys doubt. Action destroys fear. Progress destroys hesitation. They do not wait to feel ready. They act until they become ready. The average person wants certainty. The effective person creates certainty through movement. Waiting feels safe. But waiting is often disguised fear. Fear of failure. Fear of rejection. Fear of embarrassment. Fear of being judged. The mind creates endless reasons to delay action. Tomorrow sounds safer than today. Later sounds easier than now. Eventually sounds more comfortable than immediately. But there is a hidden cost to waiting. Every day you delay action, you strengthen the habit of delay. Every time you postpone a goal, you teach your brain that postponement is acceptable. Every excuse practice becomes easier to repeat. Every delay becomes a habit. This is why highly effective people become obsessed with immediate action. Not reckless action. Not perfect action. Immediate action. When they decide something matters, they begin. They make the call. They start the workout. They write the first page. They launch the project. They take the first step. Because they understand a powerful truth. Motion destroys doubt. Action destroys fear. Progress destroys hesitation. One completed task creates energy for the next task. One small victory creates momentum for a larger victory. One disciplined day creates the possibility of another disciplined day. The goal is not perfection. Perfection is another trap. Perfection causes people to wait. Perfection causes people to delay. Perfection causes people to hide behind preparation. Highly effective people understand that progress is more valuable than perfection. Done is often better than perfect. Movement is better than waiting. Execution is better than planning forever. Consider how many dreams die because people wait for the perfect moment. The perfect moment rarely arrives. The conditions are never ideal. The timing is never flawless. The circumstances are never completely certain. The people who achieve extraordinary things are not those who waited for perfect conditions. They are the people who moved forward despite imperfect conditions, that is courage. Not the absence of fear. Action despite fear. Not the absence of uncertainty. Movement despite uncertainty. Not the absence of difficulty. Persistence despite difficulty. The next time you find yourself waiting for motivation, remember this: motivation is a visitor. Discipline is a resident. Motivation comes and goes. Discipline stays. Motivation is emotional. Discipline is structural. Motivation is temporary. Motivation is a visitor. Discipline is a resident. Motivation comes and goes. Discipline stays. Motivation is emotional. Discipline is structural. Motivation is temporary. Discipline is dependable. If you build your life around motivation, your progress will always be unstable. If you build your life around discipline, your progress becomes inevitable. So stop asking whether you feel like it. Stop asking whether you are inspired. Stop asking whether you are ready. Ask a better question. What needs to be done? Then do it. Take the step. Make the call. Write the page. Start the workout. Begin the project. Move. Because action creates emotion. Action creates confidence. Action creates momentum. And momentum changes lives. Remember these words. Motivation starts. Discipline finishes. The people who master this principle gain an advantage that compounds for a lifetime. And from this day forward, you must decide which person you will become. The person who waits. Or the person who acts. Because your future belongs to the one who moves first, there is one habit that separates powerful people from powerless people. One habit. One decision. One mindset. Responsibility. Highly effective people take responsibility for everything they can control. Average people spend their lives looking for someone else to blame. They blame their parents. They blame the economy. They blame their boss. They blame their circumstances. They blame their past. They blame bad luck. And every time they blame something outside themselves, they surrender a piece of their power. Because blame feels good in the moment. But it makes you weak in the long run. Responsibility feels heavy in the moment. But it makes you powerful in the long run. This is one of the most important lessons you will ever learn. If it's your fault, it's your power. Repeat that. If it's your fault, it's your power. If it's your fault, it's your power. Most people hear the word fault and immediately resist it. They think responsibility means self-criticism. They think responsibility means shame. They think responsibility means carrying guilt. It does not. Responsibility is not about beating yourself up. Responsibility is about taking control. When you accept responsibility for your life, you stop waiting for rescue. You stop waiting for permission. You stop waiting for someone else to fix what only you can fix. And that changes everything. Consider two people who lose their jobs. The first person spends months complaining. They blame the company. They blame management. They blame the market. They blame everyone except themselves. The second person asks a different question. What can I do now? They update their skills. They expand their network. They improve their resume. They apply for opportunities. They adapt. Months later, their lives look completely different. Not because one person was luckier. Because one person accepted responsibility. Responsibility creates movement, blame creates stagnation. Responsibility creates solutions. Blame creates excuses. Responsibility creates progress. Blame creates frustration. The reality is that life is not always fair. Bad things happen to good people. Unexpected setbacks occur. People disappoint you. Opportunities disappear. Circumstances change. You cannot control all of that. But you can always control your response. And your response determines your future. Highly effective people understand this principle deeply. They understand that while they cannot control every event, they can control their reaction to every event. That is where power lives, not in circumstances. Not in conditions. Not in luck. In response. The strongest people in the world are not those with perfect lives. They are those who respond effectively when life becomes difficult. Think about someone who wants better health. They can blame genetics, they can blame age. They can blame their schedule, they can blame their environment, or they can take ownership, they can exercise, they can blame age, they can blame their schedule. They can blame their environment. Or they can take ownership. They can exercise. They can improve their nutrition. They can prioritize sleep. They can make small daily decisions that move them forward. One path creates excuses. The other creates results. Results belong to owners. Excuses belong to victims. And make no mistake, there is a difference between experiencing hardship and adopting a victim mindset. Everyone faces challenges. Everyone experiences setbacks. Everyone suffers disappointment. But highly effective people refuse to build their identity around those experiences. They refuse to let adversity define them. Instead, they ask one powerful question. What is my next move? That question changes lives. Because it directs attention toward action. And action creates momentum. Imagine a person struggling financially. Month after month they complain. They complain about prices. They complain about employers. They complain about opportunities. Years pass. Nothing changes. Now imagine another person in the same situation. Instead of complaining, they begin learning. They study valuable skills. They read books. They seek mentors. They take courses. They improve little by little. The gap between these two people grows wider every year. Not because life treated one person differently. Because one person owned the situation. Ownership creates options, complaining creates paralysis. One of the most dangerous habits in the world is externalizing responsibility. It sounds like this. I would succeed if people supported me. I would be healthier if I had more time. I would be happier if circumstances were different. I would be more productive if everything went my way. These statements sound reasonable, but they carry a hidden message. The hidden message is this: my life depends on factors outside my control. The moment you believe that, you become weaker, because power only exists where responsibility exists. Read that again. Power only exists where responsibility exists. If you are responsible, you can act. If you can act, you can improve. If you can improve, you can change your future. This is why highly effective people constantly ask themselves difficult questions. What could I have done better? What can I learn from this? How can I improve? What is within my control? Notice what they do not ask. They do not ask, who can I blame? Why does this always happen to me? When will someone save me? Those questions lead nowhere. The quality of your life is directly connected to the quality of the questions you ask yourself. Powerful questions create powerful actions. Weak questions create weak actions. Every morning you have a choice. You can be the victim of your circumstances. Or you can be the owner of your circumstances. The victim waits. The owner acts. The victim complains. The owner adapts. The victim focuses on obstacles. The owner focuses on solutions. The victim searches for excuses. The owner searches for opportunities. And over time, those small differences create radically different lives. There is something liberating about accepting complete responsibility. It removes the need for excuses. It removes the need for blame. It removes the need to wait. Because the moment you own your life, you realize something important. You already have enough power to begin. You may not control everything. But you control something. And something is enough. You control your attitude. You control your effort. You control your discipline. You control your habits. You control your decisions. And those decisions shape your destiny. The most effective people in the world understand a simple truth. Life improves when ownership increases. As ownership grows, confidence grows. As ownership grows, discipline grows. As ownership grows, results grow. The moment you stop blaming, you start building. The moment you stop complaining, you start creating. The moment you stop waiting, you start leading. So from this day forward, make a commitment. Own your actions. Own your habits. Own your choices. Own your mistakes. Own your growth. Own your future. Not because everything is your fault, but because responsibility gives you access to power. And power gives you access to change. Remember these words whenever life becomes difficult. If it's your fault, it's your power. If it's your fault, it's your power. If it's your fault, it's your power. The people who transform their lives are not the people with the fewest problems. They are the people who take the greatest ownership. Become one of them. Every day, your life is shaped by decisions. Not once a year. Not once a month. Every single day. Small decisions. Large decisions. Obvious decisions. Difficult decisions. Your future is not built in dramatic moments. It is built in daily choices. And yet, most people spend their lives trapped in hesitation. They overthink. They analyze. They delay. They second-guess. They wait for certainty. They wait for guarantees. They wait for proof that everything will work out perfectly. And while they wait, opportunities disappear. The truth is simple. Indecision is expensive. Very expensive. It costs time. It costs energy. It costs confidence. It costs opportunities. It costs momentum. The greatest cost is not making the wrong decision. The greatest cost is making no decision at all. Because a delayed decision is often a hidden form of fear, fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of making mistakes. Fear of responsibility. Fear disguises itself as careful thinking. But often, it is simply avoidance. Highly effective people understand something that average people do not. They understand that life rewards movement. Not perfection. Movement. They know that speed creates feedback, feedback creates learning. Learning creates improvement. And improvement creates success. That is why highly effective people make decisions faster. Not recklessly. Not carelessly. But decisively. There is a difference. The average person believes successful people always know the right answer before they act. That is a myth. Most successful people simply become comfortable making decisions without having all the information. Because they understand a powerful truth. Clarity comes from action. Not from endless thinking. Repeat that. Clarity comes from action. Clarity comes from action. Clarity comes from action. Imagine standing at a crossroads. One path leads left. One path leads right. You do not know which path is best. You can stand there for hours analyzing. You can stand there for days debating. You can stand there for years imagining possibilities. Or you can choose a direction and begin moving. The person who moves gains information. The person who waits gains nothing. Action reveals reality. Thinking alone cannot. Many people believe they need perfect certainty before making a choice. But certainty is rarely available. Business owners do not have certainty. Investors do not have certainty. Leaders do not have certainty. Parents do not have certainty. No one does. Highly effective people understand that uncertainty is not a signal to stop. It is a normal part of life. The goal is not certainty. The goal is progress. Every major achievement begins with an imperfect decision. The entrepreneur launches before everything is perfect. The writer publishes before feeling completely ready. The athlete competes before feeling fully confident. The leader acts before having all the answers. Because they understand that waiting for certainty often means waiting forever. Think about how much energy indecision consumes. When you cannot decide, your mind keeps revisiting the same problem. Again and again. Morning after morning. Night after night. The issue remains open. The question remains unresolved. The mental weight continues to grow. Indecision is exhausting. Decision creates relief. Even difficult decisions create freedom. Because once a decision is made, energy shifts from worrying to acting. And action always beats anxiety. Many people believe confidence creates decisions. In reality, decisions create confidence. Every time you make a decision and survive the outcome, you become stronger. You begin to trust yourself. You begin to trust your judgment. You begin to trust your ability to adapt. Confidence is built through decisions. Not through waiting. Not through observing. Not through endless preparation. Through decisions. Consider a person who wants to start a business. For years they research. They watch videos. They read books. They attend seminars. They gather information. Yet they never begin. Another person starts with limited knowledge. They make mistakes. They adjust. They learn. They improve. 5 years later, one person has experience. The other has opinions. One made decisions. The other collected information. Success belongs to the one who moves. There is another reason highly effective people make decisions quickly. They understand that most decisions are reversible. This is important. Many people treat every decision as if it will determine the rest of their lives. They create enormous pressure, they magnify every choice. They become paralyzed. But most decisions can be adjusted. Most decisions can be corrected. Most decisions can be improved. Life is not a single choice. Life is a series of choices. You are rarely one decision away from success. And you are rarely one decision away from failure. What matters is your ability to decide, learn, and adjust. Decide. Commit. Adjust. Remember those 3 words. Decide. Commit. Adjust. Decide. Commit. Adjust. Highly effective people do not expect perfection. They expect adaptation. When a decision works, they continue. When a decision fails, they learn. When conditions change, they adapt. That flexibility makes them powerful. The average person fears mistakes. The effective person uses mistakes. The average person fears being wrong. The effective person learns from being wrong. The average person avoids decisions. The effective person embraces decisions. Because they know something important. Every decision teaches. Every action reveals. Every experience sharpens judgment. The only people who never make mistakes are the people who never move. And those people rarely accomplish anything meaningful. There comes a point when thinking becomes a form of procrastination. The mind convinces itself that more analysis will solve the problem. More research. More preparation. More planning. But often, what is truly needed is action. A decision. A commitment. A first step. This does not mean acting blindly. It means recognizing when enough information is enough. It means understanding that progress requires courage. It means accepting that uncertainty is part of growth. Every effective leader understands this. Every successful entrepreneur understands this. Every high performer understands this. At some point, you must choose. At some point, you must commit. At some point, you must move. The quality of your life depends on your ability to make decisions, not perfect decisions. Timely decisions. Decisive decisions. Courageous decisions. Because every major breakthrough begins with a choice. A choice to start. A choice to continue. A choice to change. A choice to act. And the faster you become at making thoughtful decisions, the faster your life begins to move forward. Remember this whenever you find yourself trapped in overthinking. You do not need more certainty. You need more action. You do not need perfect information. You need a decision. You do not need guarantees. You need courage, because clarity comes from action. Confidence comes from decisions. And momentum comes from movement. So stop waiting. Stop hesitating. Stop negotiating with fear. Choose a direction. Take a step. Learn from the outcome. Then take another step. And another. And another. Because the people who win in life are not the people who always choose perfectly. They are the people who choose, adapt, and continue moving forward. Remember the formula. Decide. Commit. Adjust. Decide. Commit. Adjust. Decide. Commit. Adjust. Master this habit, and you will move through life with a level of confidence and effectiveness that most people never experience. There is one resource that every human being receives equally. Rich or poor. Young or old. Successful or struggling. Powerful or unknown. Every person receives 24 hours. Not 25. Not 23. 24. Every day. And yet, most people treat time as if it is unlimited. They spend it carelessly. They waste it casually. They give it away freely. Then they wonder why their lives remain unchanged. Highly effective people understand something that average people never fully accept. Time is life. Read that again. Time is life. Time is life. Time is life. When you waste time, you are not wasting minutes. You are wasting pieces of your life. You can recover lost money. You can rebuild a failed business. You can repair many mistakes. But you can never recover yesterday. Once a day is gone, it is gone forever. That is why highly effective people protect their time with intensity. Because they understand its true value. Most people say they want success, they say they want better health, they say they want financial freedom, they say they want stronger relationships, but then they spend hours scrolling through meaningless content, hours watching things they will forget tomorrow, hours distracted by information that adds nothing to their future. Their goals and their calendars tell completely different stories. And your calendar never lies. Your priorities are not what you say they are. Your priorities are what you repeatedly spend time on. Think about that. If someone followed you for 30 days and studied how you spent every hour, what would they conclude? Would they see someone committed to growth? Would they see someone building a future? Or would they see someone distracted by comfort? This is a difficult question. But effective people ask difficult questions. Because difficult questions create honest answers. And honest answers create change. One of the biggest myths in the world is that people lack time. Most people do not lack time. They lack priorities. Everyone says they are busy. But being busy and being productive are not the same thing. You can spend an entire day working and accomplish nothing important. You can answer emails, attend meetings, respond to messages, handle small tasks, stay occupied for 12 hours, and still make no meaningful progress. Activity is not achievement. Movement is not progress. Busyness is not productivity. Highly effective people know the difference. They understand that not all tasks are equal. Some activities create massive results. Others create almost none. That is why they focus relentlessly on what matters most. They ask themselves one question over and over again. What is the highest value use of my time right now? That question changes everything. Because it forces attention toward importance instead of urgency. Many people spend their lives reacting. A notification appears, they respond. A message arrives, they answer. Someone makes a request, they immediately comply. Their entire day becomes controlled by external demands. They are living reactively, not intentionally, not strategically, reactively, and reactive people rarely achieve extraordinary results, because greatness requires concentration, greatness requires intention, greatness requires focus. What owns your attention owns your future. Repeat that. What owns your attention owns your future. What owns your attention owns your future. What owns your attention owns your future. If distractions own your attention, distractions own your future. If entertainment owns your attention, entertainment owns your future. If social media owns your attention, social media owns your future. But if your goals own your attention, your future begins to change. This is why highly effective people become ruthless with distractions. Not because they hate entertainment. Not because they dislike relaxation. But because they understand opportunity cost. Every yes is also a no. Every hour spent on one thing is an hour unavailable for something else. When you say yes to distraction, you say no to growth. When you say yes to procrastination, you say no to progress. When you say yes to comfort, you often say no to potential. The most successful people in the world understand this deeply. They guard their schedules. They defend their focus. They protect their energy. They know that every interruption carries a cost. Imagine trying to build a house. Every 10 minutes someone forces you to stop working. How long would it take? Now imagine building your future under the same conditions. Constant interruptions. Constant notifications. Constant distractions. Constant attention shifts. The result is predictable. Slow progress. Fragmented thinking. Reduced effectiveness. This is why deep focus has become one of the rarest and most valuable skills in the modern world. Most people cannot concentrate for 30 minutes without interruption. Their minds have been trained to seek stimulation, to seek novelty, to seek distraction. But highly effective people train themselves differently. They train themselves to stay with the task, to stay with the challenge, to stay with the discomfort. Because they understand where results come from. Results come from focused effort. Not scattered effort. Not divided effort. Focused effort. There is another truth about time that most people ignore. Small losses become massive losses. 5 wasted minutes seems harmless. 10 wasted minutes seems insignificant. But repeated every day, those minutes become hours. Those hours become weeks. Those weeks become months. Those months become years. A lifetime is built from daily habits. A wasted life is often the result of wasted days. Not dramatic failures. Daily neglect. Daily distraction. Daily postponement. Highly effective people never underestimate the power of small decisions. Because they understand compound effects. 1 productive hour every day becomes hundreds of productive hours every year. 1 focused year becomes a transformed life. The question is not whether you have enough time. The question is whether you are using the time you already have. The clock is moving whether you act or not. The years are passing whether you prepare or not. Life is advancing whether you focus or not. Time does not pause for indecision. Time does not wait for motivation. Time does not care about excuses. It continues moving. The most successful people understand this reality, and instead of fearing it, they use it. They make every day count, not perfectly, but intentionally, not obsessively, but purposefully. They understand that extraordinary lives are built through ordinary days used wisely. Every morning presents a choice. You can spend the day consuming or creating, reacting or leading, drifting or directing. The choice is yours, and that choice determines your future, because the quality of your life is directly connected to the quality of your time. Protect your time, protect your attention, protect your focus, protect your energy, because these things determine what your life becomes. Remember these words whenever you are tempted to waste another hour. Time is life, and if time is life, then protecting your time is one of the most important responsibilities you will ever have. Guard it fiercely, use it wisely, invest it intentionally, because every hour you save today becomes a building block for the future you want tomorrow. And never forget, what owns your attention owns your future. Every day begins with a choice. A simple choice. A small choice. A choice that most people never think about. Will you attack the hard thing first? Or will you avoid it? That decision shapes the rest of your day more than you realize. Because there is a hidden battle happening every morning. A battle between growth and comfort. Between progress and avoidance. Between discipline and distraction. And the outcome of that battle often determines the outcome of your life. Most people wake up and immediately seek comfort. They check their phone. They browse social media. They answer easy emails. They organize things that do not matter. They stay busy. But they avoid the one task that could create the biggest result. Why? Because it is difficult. Because it requires effort. Because it creates discomfort. Because it demands focus. The mind naturally seeks pleasure and avoids pain. That is normal. That is human. But highly effective people understand something important. Success requires the ability to act against your immediate preferences. Read that again. Success requires the ability to act against your immediate preferences. Success is often found on the other side of discomfort, not comfort, discomfort, the workout you want to avoid, the conversation you do not want to have, the project you keep postponing, the decision you keep delaying, the challenge you keep ignoring. Those are often the exact things that contain your next breakthrough, but most people spend their lives running from discomfort, and when you run from discomfort, you often run from growth. Highly effective people reverse the process. They move toward discomfort, not because they enjoy suffering, not because they enjoy stress, but because they understand what discomfort represents. Discomfort is often a sign of expansion, a sign of development, a sign of progress. Growth rarely feels comfortable. Think about physical exercise. When muscles grow stronger, they experience resistance. When endurance improves, it requires strain. When skills develop, mistakes are made. Improvement demands discomfort. Life works the same way. The areas that challenge you the most often offer the greatest rewards. That is why effective people attack difficult tasks early. Before excuses appear. Before distractions multiply. Before energy declines. They understand that willpower is strongest when the day begins. And they use that advantage wisely. Most people do the opposite. They postpone difficult work until later. Later becomes afternoon. Afternoon becomes evening. Evening becomes tomorrow. Tomorrow becomes next week. And eventually, important goals disappear beneath endless delay. Procrastination is not a time management problem. It is often an emotion management problem. People are not avoiding the task. They are avoiding the feeling associated with the task. The uncertainty. The challenge. The possibility of failure. The discomfort. And so they delay. But delay creates a hidden cost. Every unfinished task occupies mental space, every postponed responsibility creates pressure. Every avoided challenge produces stress. The task does not disappear. It follows you. It sits in the back of your mind. It drains your energy. It steals your focus. It weakens your confidence. Because deep down, you know it still exists. This is why doing the hard thing first is so powerful. It removes the mental burden immediately. It creates momentum. It builds confidence. It establishes control. Instead of carrying the weight all day, you eliminate it early, and the freedom that follows is extraordinary. Imagine two people. The first person wakes up and immediately completes their most important challenge. The second spends the entire day avoiding theirs. By evening, who feels stronger? Who feels more confident? Who feels more accomplished? The answer is obvious. Action creates energy. Avoidance creates anxiety. Remember that. Action creates energy. Avoidance creates anxiety. Action creates energy. Avoidance creates anxiety. Many people assume that hard tasks consume energy. In reality, avoiding hard tasks often consumes more energy. Because avoidance requires constant mental effort. You think about the task. You worry about the task. You remember the task. You postpone the task. The task becomes a shadow following you throughout the day. And shadows grow larger the longer you run from them. Highly effective people understand a different strategy. Turn toward the challenge. Face it directly. Attack it immediately. The sooner you confront it, the smaller it becomes. The longer you avoid it, the larger it appears. Fear grows in delay. Courage grows in action. Consider the person who needs to have a difficult conversation. They avoid it for weeks. They rehearse it in their mind. They worry about outcomes. They create endless scenarios. Their stress grows daily. Then finally they have the conversation. And often, it is not nearly as bad as they imagined. The suffering came from avoidance, not from action. This pattern repeats throughout life. The difficult project. The challenging goal. The important decision. The uncomfortable truth. Most people suffer more from anticipation than execution. That is why highly effective people develop a habit. A simple habit. A powerful habit. Do the hard thing first. Before the world interrupts you. Before distractions arrive. Before fear has time to negotiate, move, take action, begin. One of the greatest advantages you can create is becoming the person who consistently does what others avoid, because most people spend their lives seeking the path of least resistance. They choose easy, they choose comfortable, they choose familiar. And then they wonder why their results remain average. Average actions create average outcomes. Extraordinary outcomes require extraordinary standards. The hard thing is often the valuable thing. The difficult path often leads to meaningful rewards. The challenge often contains the lesson. The obstacle often contains the opportunity. Highly effective people understand this. They stop asking, "What is easiest?" and start asking, "What is most important?" That question changes everything, because important tasks rarely feel easy. Important tasks require effort. They require concentration, they require courage, they require discipline, and discipline grows every time you choose difficulty over comfort. Every time you do the hard thing first, you strengthen something inside yourself. Your confidence grows, your resilience grows, your self-respect grows, because you begin proving something important. You begin proving that your actions are stronger than your excuses. That proof changes your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who avoids challenges. You begin seeing yourself as someone who faces them, and identity drives behavior. The person who sees themselves as disciplined acts differently. The person who sees themselves as courageous acts differently. The person who sees themselves as effective acts differently, all because they repeatedly chose action over avoidance. Imagine what would happen if every morning you completed the most important task before doing anything else. 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, 1 year. the compound effect would be extraordinary. Projects would advance faster, goals would become reality sooner, confidence would increase dramatically, stress would decrease significantly, life would move forward, not because you worked harder, because you worked on what mattered first. That is the secret, not more activity. More priority, not more hours, better focus, not more busyness, more courage, win the morning, win the day. Repeat that. The first victory creates momentum for the second. The second creates momentum for the third, momentum builds. Confidence grows, progress accelerates, and soon, difficult things no longer feel impossible, they become normal, because you have trained yourself to act despite discomfort. That is the habit of highly effective people. They do not wait for hard things to become easy, they become strong enough to do hard things consistently. So tomorrow morning, when the choice appears, and it will appear, remember this chapter. Remember that growth lives inside discomfort, remember that avoidance creates anxiety, remember that action creates energy, and remember that the future belongs to those who attack what matters most. Do not start with what is easy, start with what is important. Do not begin with comfort, begin with courage. Do not delay the challenge, confront it, because every time you do the hard thing first, you become a stronger version of yourself, and that version is capable of building the life you truly want. Win the morning, win the day. One of the most dangerous addictions in the world is invisible. It does not come in a bottle. It does not come in a pill. It does not come with warning labels, yet it controls millions of lives. The addiction is validation, the need to be approved, the need to be liked, the need to be praised, the need to hear someone else say, "You are enough." And because of this addiction, countless people spend their entire lives trapped inside invisible prisons. They do not pursue the career they want. They do not speak the truth they believe, they do not start the business they dream about, they do not express their real opinions, they do not become who they truly are. Why? Because they are afraid of what other people might think. Think about how much human potential has been destroyed by that fear, not fear of failure, not fear of hard work, fear of judgment, fear of criticism, fear of disapproval. The desire for approval is natural. Every human being wants acceptance, every human being wants connection. Every human being wants belonging. There is nothing wrong with that. The problem begins when approval becomes more important than purpose. Read that again. The problem begins when approval becomes more important than purpose. When that happens, people stop living their own lives, they begin performing for an audience, they begin managing perceptions, they begin editing themselves, and eventually, they lose sight of who they really are. Highly effective people understand something that average people often forget. You cannot build an extraordinary life while constantly seeking permission. You cannot become exceptional while trying to avoid criticism. You cannot lead while desperately needing everyone to agree with you. The two goals are incompatible, because the moment you decide to grow, someone will disapprove. The moment you decide to change, someone will criticize. The moment you decide to stand out, someone will judge. That is not a possibility, that is a guarantee. Every person who has ever achieved something meaningful has faced criticism. Every innovator, every entrepreneur, every creator, every leader, every pioneer. At some point, people doubted them. At some point, people laughed. At some point, people questioned their choices, yet they continued, not because criticism disappeared, because approval was no longer required. Respect over approval. Remember that. Respect over approval. Respect over approval. Respect over approval. There is a profound difference between wanting respect and needing approval. Respect is earned through character. Approval is often granted through conformity. Respect requires integrity. Approval often requires compromise. respect comes from staying true to your values, approval often comes from abandoning them. Highly effective people choose respect, even when approval is unavailable, especially when approval is unavailable. Imagine a person who dreams of starting a business. They have ideas. They have ambition, they have potential, but before every decision, they ask themselves one question: what will people think? That question becomes a prison. Every risk is filtered through fear. Every opportunity is examined through the lens of judgment. Every action becomes dependent on external opinions. Progress slows. Confidence weakens. Dreams remain unrealized. Now imagine another person. They still hear criticism. They still face doubt. They still experience judgment. But they ask a different question. What do I believe is right? That question creates freedom. Because it shifts authority inward. And the direction of your life depends on where you place authority. If authority lives outside you, other people control your choices. If authority lives inside you, you control your choices. Many people spend years trying to make everyone happy. An impossible mission. No matter what you do, someone will disagree. No matter what you achieve, someone will criticize. No matter how kind you are, someone will misunderstand you. No matter how successful you become, someone will resent you. This is reality. And the sooner you accept it, the sooner you become free. One of the greatest lessons in life is this. Not everyone has to understand you. Not everyone has to agree with you. Not everyone has to support you. Their approval is optional, your purpose is not. Think about the most respected individuals you know. The people who command admiration. The people who inspire confidence. The people who lead effectively. What do they all have in common? They possess conviction. They know who they are. They know what they stand for. They are not constantly adjusting themselves to satisfy every opinion around them. They have principles. And principles create strength. People trust those who know where they stand. People respect those who act with conviction. People follow those who are willing to stand alone when necessary, but conviction requires courage. Because standing for something means risking criticism. And criticism is the price of visibility. If nobody criticizes you, you may not be taking enough meaningful action. If nobody disagrees with you, you may be trying too hard to please everyone. Growth attracts criticism. Success attracts criticism. Leadership attracts criticism. The goal is not to avoid criticism. The goal is to become strong enough to withstand it. Many people make the mistake of interpreting criticism as evidence that they should stop. Highly effective people see criticism differently. They evaluate it. They learn from what is useful. They ignore what is not. Then they continue moving forward. They do not allow every opinion to become a steering wheel. Because a life controlled by external opinions eventually loses direction. Imagine driving a car where every passenger grabs the wheel. One pulls left. Another pulls right. Another changes direction completely. How far would you get? Not very far. Yet that is exactly how many people live. Every opinion influences them. Every criticism shakes them. Every judgment changes their course. And because of that, they never build momentum. Highly effective people drive their own vehicle. They listen. They consider. They learn. But they remain in control. There is another hidden cost to seeking validation. It weakens self-respect. Because every time you betray your values to gain approval, you send yourself a message. You send the message that external acceptance matters more than personal integrity. Over time, that damages confidence. Because true confidence is not built through praise. True confidence is built through self-trust. And self-trust comes from keeping promises to yourself. From honoring your principles. From acting according to your values. Even when it is difficult. Especially when it is difficult. The strongest people are not those who receive the most applause. Respect over approval. Respect over approval. Respect over approval. Master this habit, and you will stop living for the applause of others. You will finally begin living for the purpose that is your own. There is a voice that follows you everywhere. It wakes up with you. It works with you. It travels with you. It sits beside you in moments of success. It sits beside you in moments of failure. It is there when nobody else is around. And whether you realize it or not, that voice is shaping your life. It is shaping your confidence. It is shaping your decisions. It is shaping your actions. It is shaping your future. That voice is your inner dialogue. The conversation you have with yourself every day. And here is the truth most people never fully understand. Your mind is always listening. Repeat that. Your mind is always listening. Your mind is always listening. Your mind is always listening. Every word you repeatedly tell yourself becomes an instruction. Every thought you consistently repeat becomes a belief. Every belief influences behavior. And behavior creates results. That means the quality of your life is deeply connected to the quality of your internal conversations. Most people never examine those conversations. They simply allow them to run automatically. And automatic thinking often produces automatic limitations. Listen carefully to the language people use when facing challenges that I can't do this. I'm not good enough. I'm unlucky. I'm always behind. I never succeed. People like me don't get opportunities. These statements may sound harmless, but they are not harmless. They are commands, they are instructions, they are repeated messages being sent to the mind, and the mind responds accordingly. The brain is constantly searching for evidence to support what you believe. Tell yourself you are incapable, and your mind begins collecting proof. Tell yourself you always fail, and your attention begins focusing on failures. Tell yourself you are powerless, and your actions begin reflecting powerlessness. This is not because those statements are true. It is because repeated thoughts become accepted truths. Highly effective people understand this principle. They understand that language shapes identity. The words you use become the world you experience. That is why they guard their inner dialogue carefully. Not because they ignore reality. Not because they pretend difficulties do not exist. but because they understand the difference between empowering language and limiting language. Consider two people facing the exact same challenge. Both experience a setback. Both encounter obstacles. Both feel frustrated. The first person says, "This is impossible." The second person says, "This is difficult, but I can figure it out." The circumstances are identical, but the internal dialogue is completely different. One creates weakness. The other creates possibility. One closes doors. The other opens them. One ends growth. The other begins growth. The words matter. Far more than most people realize. Your mind is always listening. Imagine carrying a personal coach with you 24 hours a day. Imagine that coach constantly speaking into your ear. Would you allow that coach to say, "You're not capable, that you're destined to fail, that you'll never improve"? Of course not. You would fire that coach immediately. Yet many people allow themselves to speak that way every day. They tolerate language from themselves that they would never accept from anyone else, and then they wonder why confidence feels weak. Confidence cannot thrive in a hostile mental environment. Confidence grows where encouragement exists. Confidence grows where belief exists. Confidence grows where constructive thinking exists. This does not mean lying to yourself. It does not mean pretending everything is perfect. It means speaking to yourself in a way that supports progress. There is a powerful difference between saying, "I failed," and saying, "I am a failure." One describes an event, the other creates an identity. Highly effective people understand this distinction. They separate outcomes from identity. They understand that mistakes are temporary, but identities become permanent if repeated often enough. A person who repeatedly says, "I am lazy," begins acting like a lazy person. A person who repeatedly says, "I am disciplined," begins looking for opportunities to prove that identity true. Identity drives behavior, and identity is heavily influenced by language. The stories you tell yourself matter. Every day, people are narrating their lives. Some tell stories of limitation, others tell stories of possibility. Some say, "Life happens to me." Others say, "I create my response." Some say, "I can't." Others say, "I'll find a way." The difference appears small, the results become enormous, because language directs attention. And attention directs action. One of the most powerful habits you can develop is becoming aware of your thoughts. Not every thought deserves belief. Not every thought deserves attention. Not every thought deserves repetition. Many thoughts are simply mental noise, temporary reactions, emotional impulses, automatic programming. Highly effective people learn to observe thoughts without immediately accepting them. When a negative thought appears, they question it. Is it true? Is it useful? Does it move me forward? If not, they replace it, not with fantasy, with strength, not with denial, with possibility. For example, instead of, "I can't do this," try, "I can learn this." Instead of, "This is impossible," try, "This will require effort." Instead of, "I'm not ready," "I'll grow through the process." Those shifts seem small, but repeated daily, they become transformational. Remember this, the brain follows instructions. If you repeatedly tell yourself that success is impossible, your brain will search for reasons to quit. If you repeatedly tell yourself that growth is possible, your brain will search for solutions. The internal command changes the external outcome. That is why highly effective people become intentional with language. They speak differently. They think differently. And because they think differently, they act differently. The average person says, "I have to." The effective person says, "I choose to." The average person says, "I hope things improve." The effective person says, "I will improve things." The average person says, "I'll try." The effective person says, "I'll do it." Notice the difference. One language creates passivity. The other creates ownership. One language creates hesitation. The other creates commitment. Your words reveal your mindset. And your mindset shapes your future. Another important truth is this: you become what you repeatedly rehearse. Athletes rehearse performance. Musicians rehearse excellence. Leaders rehearse confidence. Yet many people rehearse fear. They rehearse doubt. They rehearse failure. They replay worst-case scenarios over and over, then they wonder why anxiety grows stronger. Whatever receives repetition gains strength. That includes your thoughts. So rehearse courage. Rehearse resilience. Rehearse determination. Rehearse possibility. Feed your mind what you want it to become. Because your mind is always listening. Always. The most successful people in the world are not free from negative thoughts. They simply refuse to let negative thoughts become permanent residents. They challenge them. Replace them. Redirect them. And move forward. That habit creates extraordinary results over time. Imagine speaking to yourself for the next year with encouragement instead of criticism, with belief instead of doubt, with responsibility instead of excuses. How different would your actions become? How different would your confidence become? How different would your life become? The answer is obvious: everything would begin to change, because change begins internally before it appears externally. Every achievement is created twice. First in the mind. Then in reality. The inner world creates the outer world. That is why mastering your inner dialogue is not optional. It is essential. Your future depends on it. So beginning today, pay attention to the voice inside your head. Listen carefully. Challenge weakness. Replace limitation. Strengthen possibility. Speak words that support growth. Speak words that encourage action. Speak words that reinforce strength. And remember, your mind is always listening. Your mind is always listening. Your mind is always listening. Make sure the instructions you give it are worthy of the future you want to create. Because the conversation you have with yourself today becomes the life you experience tomorrow. Most people are obsessed with goals. They set goals every year. They write goals in journals. They talk about goals with friends. They dream about goals. They visualize goals. They announce goals. And then something interesting happens. Most of those goals never become reality. Not because people lack ambition. Not because people lack intelligence. Not because people lack desire. Because goals alone are not enough. A goal tells you where you want to go. A system determines whether you get there. Read that again. A goal tells you where you want to go. A system determines whether you get there. That is one of the most important lessons highly effective people understand. They do not become obsessed with outcomes, they become obsessed with processes. They become obsessed with habits. They become obsessed with systems. Because systems are what create results. Goals are important. Goals provide direction. Goals provide clarity. Goals provide purpose. But goals are temporary, systems are permanent. The goal might be to lose 20 pounds. The system is exercising consistently. The goal might be to write a book. The system is writing every day. The goal might be financial freedom. The system is saving, investing, and learning consistently. Goals point the way. Systems move you forward. Most people focus almost entirely on the destination. Highly effective people focus on the vehicle, because the vehicle determines whether the destination is reached. Imagine two people who want to become successful. Both have the same goal, both have the same dream, both have the same desire. One person wakes up every day hoping to feel motivated. The other person follows a structured routine regardless of mood. One depends on emotions, the other depends on systems. Years later, which person is more likely to succeed? The answer is obvious: the system wins every single time. This is because motivation is unpredictable. Some days it appears, some days it disappears, some days you feel unstoppable. Some days you feel exhausted. If your progress depends on motivation, your progress becomes inconsistent. But systems do not care how you feel. Systems operate regardless of mood. Systems create action even when enthusiasm is absent. That is their power. Systems produce what wishes never will. Remember that. Systems produce what wishes never will. Systems produce what wishes never will. Systems produce what wishes never will. Many people mistake desire for commitment. They think wanting something is enough, but wanting is common. Everyone wants something. Everyone wants success. Everyone wants confidence. Everyone wants wealth. Everyone wants health. The difference is not desire. The difference is execution. And execution comes from systems. Consider professional athletes. They rely on inspiration every day. No, they rely on routines. Training schedules, practice plans, recovery protocols, disciplined habits. The system guarantees progress, not perfection, progress. The same principle applies everywhere. Successful businesses operate through systems. Strong relationships thrive through systems. Excellent health is maintained through systems. Personal growth depends on systems. The quality of your life is largely determined by the quality of your systems. That truth changes everything. Because it shifts your focus away from wishing and toward building. Many people become excited when setting goals. They imagine future success. They imagine future rewards. They imagine future achievements. But then reality arrives. The work begins. The excitement fades. The challenge appears. And without systems, momentum disappears. This is why New Year's resolutions often fail. The goal exists. The system does not. The vision exists. The structure does not. The desire exists. The routine does not. Goals without systems are wishes. Highly effective people understand this deeply. Whenever they want a new result, they immediately ask, what system will create this outcome? Not, how badly do I want it? Not, How motivated am I? Not. How inspired do I feel? They ask. What process can I repeat? Because repetition creates results. Success is rarely dramatic. Success is usually repetitive. Small actions. Repeated consistently. Over long periods of time. That is the formula. Imagine a person who reads 10 pages every day. 10 pages seems insignificant. Almost too small to matter. But after 1 year? Thousands of pages. Dozens of books. Hundreds of lessons. A transformed perspective. The system creates the result. Not a single dramatic effort. A repeated action. This is the hidden power of systems. They remove the need for constant decision-making. The action becomes automatic. The behavior becomes normal. The habit becomes part of your identity. And identity creates consistency. Many people fail because every day becomes a debate. Should I work out? Should I write? Should I study? Should I focus? Should I improve? Every decision consumes energy. Systems eliminate negotiation, the decision has already been made. The routine exists. The action happens. That simplicity creates freedom. Highly effective people understand another important truth. Good systems make success easier. Bad systems make success harder. Imagine trying to eat healthy while filling your home with junk food. Imagine trying to focus while surrounding yourself with distractions. Imagine trying to save money while constantly encouraging impulse purchases. The system works against the goal. And eventually, the system wins. Always. Because behavior follows structure. This is why effective people spend less time setting goals and more time designing environments. They create conditions that support success. They reduce friction. They remove obstacles. They make positive habits easier. They make negative habits harder. The system becomes an ally instead of an enemy. Think of your life as a machine. Results go in one end. Processes operate inside. Outcomes emerge on the other side. If you dislike the outcome, examine the process. Do not immediately blame the goal. Examine the system. Because systems create patterns. And patterns create results. This principle requires patience. Most people want immediate transformation. They want instant progress. Instant confidence. Instant success. But systems work through accumulation. Daily improvement. Weekly improvement. Monthly improvement. Yearly improvement. The change appears slow at first. Then suddenly, it appears dramatic. People call it luck. People call it talent. People call it overnight success. But what they are actually seeing is the result of a system operating consistently for a long time. The visible result is new. The invisible process is not. Every extraordinary achievement has a system behind it, every single point. 1. The author has a writing system. The athlete has a training system. The entrepreneur has a business system, the investor has an investment system. The leader has a productivity system. Results do not appear by accident. They are produced intentionally. That is why highly effective people trust systems more than emotions. Emotions fluctuate. Systems endure. Emotions rise and fall. Systems continue. Emotions are temporary. Systems are dependable. So stop obsessing over goals alone. Goals matter. But systems matter more. Because goals tell you what you want. Systems tell you what to do. And what you do determines what you become. Starting today, shift your focus. Instead of asking, "What goal do I want?" ask, "What system can I build?" Instead of asking, "What result do I need?" ask, "What habit will create it?" Instead of asking, "How can I change my life overnight?" ask, "What can I repeat every day?" Because your future is not built through occasional bursts of effort. It is built through consistent systems. Day after day. Week after week. Year after year. Remember these words. Systems produce what wishes never will. Systems produce what wishes never will. Systems produce what wishes never will. Master this habit, and you will stop relying on motivation. You will stop depending on luck. You will stop waiting for perfect conditions. And you will begin creating results that compound for a lifetime, because goals set direction, but systems create destiny. The world rewards one skill more than almost any other, not strength, not talent, not intelligence, not even experience. The skill is learning, the ability to adapt, the ability to improve, the ability to acquire new knowledge and turn it into action. In a world that changes every day, the people who learn the fastest gain the greatest advantage. And the people who stop learning slowly become irrelevant. That is the reality of modern life. The rules are changing. Industries are changing. Technology is changing. Markets are changing. Opportunities are changing. The question is simple. Can you change with them? Because growth is no longer optional. Growth is a requirement. Grow or become irrelevant. Remember that. Grow or become irrelevant. Grow or become irrelevant. Grow or become irrelevant. There was a time when a person could learn one skill and rely on it for decades. That world no longer exists. Today, knowledge becomes outdated faster than ever before. New tools emerge. New systems appear. New opportunities develop. The people who adapt thrive. The people who resist struggle. Highly effective people understand this reality. They do not see learning as something that ended after school. They see learning as a lifelong responsibility. They remain students. No matter how successful they become. No matter how experienced they become. No matter how much they achieve. Because they understand a powerful truth. The moment you believe you know enough is the moment you begin falling behind. The most dangerous phrase in the world is, "I already know that." Not because knowledge is bad. Because certainty can stop growth. Many people hear useful advice and dismiss it immediately. I've heard that before. I already know. Nothing new here. But knowing and doing are not the same thing. Information does not create results, application creates results. Read that again. Information does not create results. Application creates results. Information does not create results. Application creates results. The world is filled with people who know exactly what they should do. Exercise regularly. Manage time wisely. Save money consistently. Read more. Learn new skills. Yet their lives remain unchanged. Why? Because knowledge without execution is powerless. Highly effective people learn differently. They do not collect information. They implement information. They ask, how can I use this? What action does this require? How can this improve my life? They immediately connect learning to behavior. And behavior creates transformation. Consider two people reading the same book. The first person highlights passages, takes notes, feels inspired, then returns to old habits. The second person identifies one lesson and applies it immediately. Who gains more value? The answer is obvious. The learner who acts. Because learning is not measured by what enters your mind. It is measured by what changes your behavior. The fastest learners in the world share another important habit. They remain curious. Curiosity keeps the mind open. Curiosity keeps growth alive. Curiosity creates opportunity. Most people gradually lose curiosity as they age. They stop asking questions. They stop exploring. They stop challenging assumptions. They become comfortable. And comfort often becomes the enemy of growth. Highly effective people stay curious. They ask questions constantly. How does this work? Why is this successful? What can I learn here? How can I improve? Every question opens a door. Every question creates possibility. Curiosity transforms ordinary experiences into valuable lessons. A failure becomes feedback. A setback becomes education. A challenge becomes training. A mistake becomes insight. The learner sees opportunity where others see problems. That perspective creates an enormous advantage. Because life itself becomes a classroom. Every conversation teaches. Every experience teaches. Every success teaches. Every failure teaches. The lesson is always available. The question is whether you are paying attention. Another trait of fast learners is humility. This surprises many people. But humility accelerates learning. Ego slows it down. When people believe they already know everything, they stop listening. They stop observing. They stop growing. But humble people remain open. They understand that every person knows something they do not know. Every situation contains information they do not yet possess. Every experience offers a lesson. That mindset creates continuous improvement. The ego says, I already know. Humility says, what can I learn? One closes the door, the other opens it. Highly effective people choose the second, because they understand that growth requires openness. The ability to learn quickly also requires action. Many people become trapped in preparation. They study endlessly, research endlessly, plan endlessly. But they rarely move, and without action, learning remains incomplete. Real learning happens through experience. You learn business by building, you learn leadership by leading, you learn communication by communicating, you learn courage by acting courageously. Experience transforms theory into understanding. That is why highly effective people combine learning with execution. they study. Then they apply, they learn, then they test, they discover, then they act. That cycle creates mastery. Learn, apply, adjust, repeat. Remember that formula: learn, apply, adjust, repeat. Every expert was once a beginner, every master was once inexperienced, every successful person once lacked the knowledge they now possess. The difference is simple: they kept learning, while others stopped. Think about the people who consistently advance in life. They read, they listen, they observe, they practice, they improve. Year after year, the gap between them and everyone else grows larger. Not because they are naturally superior, because they are continuously developing. Small improvements compound, just like money, just like habits, just like effort. A person who improves by 1% every day eventually becomes unrecognizable compared to the version they started as. That is the power of continuous learning. There is another reason learning matters. It builds confidence. Confidence is often misunderstood. Many people believe confidence comes from success. In reality, confidence often comes from competence, and competence comes from learning. The more capable you become, the more confident you become. The more you understand, the less intimidating challenges appear. The more skills you acquire, the more opportunities become available. Learning expands possibility, learning expands capability, learning expands freedom. The future belongs to learners, not complainers, not excuse makers, not people trapped in old ways of thinking. Learners, because learners adapt, learners evolve. Learners innovate, learners create value, and value is always rewarded. Imagine where your life could be 5 years from now if you committed to learning every single day. 1 book each month. 1 new skill each year. 1 valuable lesson every week. 1 small improvement every day. The transformation would be extraordinary. Not because of dramatic change, because of consistent growth. That is how highly effective people think. They never arrive, they never finish growing, they never stop improving. Success does not make them stop learning, success makes them learn even more, because they understand the greatest competitive advantage available in the modern world, the ability to learn faster than everyone else. So beginning today, become a student again, ask questions, stay curious, challenge assumptions. Seek knowledge, apply what you learn, and never allow comfort to replace growth. Because the world is moving, the future is evolving, opportunities are changing, and the people who continue learning will continue leading. Remember these words: grow or become irrelevant, grow or become irrelevant, grow or become irrelevant. The choice belongs to you. Learn, apply, adjust, repeat, and watch your life transform through the power of continuous growth. Most people believe success is a matter of willpower. They believe that if they could just become more disciplined, more motivated, or mentally stronger, everything would change. So they spend years fighting themselves. They battle temptation, they battle distraction, they battle bad habits. They battle inconsistency, and despite their effort, they continue losing the same battles over and over again. Why? Because they are fighting the wrong enemy. The real enemy is often not a lack of willpower. The real enemy is a poorly designed environment. Highly effective people understand a truth that most people overlook: environment beats intention. Read that again: environment beats intention, environment beats intention, environment beats intention. You can have the best intentions in the world, you can have ambitious goals, you can have powerful dreams. But if your environment constantly pushes you in the opposite direction, progress becomes unnecessarily difficult. Imagine trying to eat healthy while your kitchen is filled with junk food. Imagine trying to focus while your phone constantly demands attention. Imagine trying to save money while surrounding yourself with endless temptations to spend. Imagine trying to read more while spending every evening in front of a screen. your intentions may be good, but your environment is stronger. Because human behavior is heavily influenced by surroundings, far more than most people realize, the places you spend time, the people you spend time with, the things you see repeatedly, the habits available to you, the distractions surrounding you, all of these shape your actions, and your actions shape your future. Highly effective people do not rely solely on self-control, they design environments that make success easier. That is the difference. The average person tries to resist temptation, the effective person removes temptation. The average person fights distractions, the effective person reduces distractions. The average person hopes for better habits, the effective person creates conditions that support better habits. Point 1. Strategy requires constant effort, the other creates automatic progress, and automatic progress is powerful. Think about how much of your behavior is automatic. You wake up, you follow routines, you move through familiar patterns, you make countless decisions without conscious thought. Most of your life operates on autopilot. That means the environment surrounding you becomes critically important. Because whatever is easiest often becomes automatic, whatever is visible often becomes attractive, whatever is convenient often becomes repeated. Behavior follows structure, whether you realize it or not. This is why highly effective people pay close attention to what surrounds them. They understand that every environment sends a message. A cluttered desk sends one message. An organized workspace sends another. A room filled with distractions sends one message. A room designed for focus sends another. The environment influences the behavior, even when you are not paying attention. Consider a simple example. Imagine placing a bowl of fruit on your kitchen counter. Now imagine placing a box of cookies beside it. Which item will attract attention more often? The one that is visible, the one that is convenient, the one that requires less effort. Small details influence behavior. And behavior repeated daily becomes destiny. This is why effective people become architects of their environment. They intentionally shape what surrounds them, not because they are obsessed with control, because they understand influence. Everything influences behavior, everything, the books you keep nearby, the apps on your phone, the people in your social circle, the media you consume, the conversations you participate in, the physical spaces you occupy. Influence is happening constantly. The question is whether it is helping you or hurting you. Environment beats intention. Remember that. Many people blame themselves for lacking discipline, but often, the problem is not character, the problem is design. Imagine trying to quit a bad habit while constantly exposing yourself to the triggers that reinforce it. Imagine trying to stay productive while allowing endless interruptions. Imagine trying to stay positive while surrounding yourself with negativity. The challenge becomes far greater than necessary. Highly effective people understand that removing friction is one of the fastest ways to improve behavior. If you want to exercise more, make exercise easier. If you want to read more, keep books visible. If you want to focus, eliminate distractions. If you want to eat better, prepare healthy options in advance. Success should be made convenient, failure should be made inconvenient. That is intelligent design. Not greater willpower, better design. Think about successful companies. They spend enormous resources designing environments. Stores are arranged intentionally, websites are arranged intentionally. Apps are arranged intentionally. Everything is designed to influence behavior. If businesses understand the power of environment, why would you ignore it in your own life? Your environment is either helping your goals or harming them. There is no neutral environment. Every environment pushes behavior in some direction. The question is, where is yours pushing you? Another critical part of your environment is the people around you. This is often the most influential factor of all. Human beings naturally adapt to their surroundings, they adopt language, they adopt standards. They adopt expectations, they adopt behaviors. This is why the people around you matter so much. If everyone around you complains, complaining becomes normal. If everyone around you procrastinates, procrastination becomes normal. If everyone around you settles for mediocrity, mediocrity becomes normal. Standards are contagious. So are habits. So are attitudes, and so are expectations. Highly effective people understand this. They intentionally seek environments where growth is normal, where discipline is normal, where learning is normal, where excellence is normal, because what is normal around you eventually becomes normal within you. Read that again. What is normal around you eventually becomes normal within you. That truth can elevate your life. Or quietly destroy it. The environment always wins in the long run. If you place a disciplined person inside a highly distracting environment long enough, performance often declines. If you place an average person inside an environment filled with growth, learning, and accountability long enough, performance often improves. The environment exerts influence every day, small influence, repeated influence, powerful influence. This is why highly effective people conduct regular audits of their surroundings. They ask difficult questions. What is helping me grow? What is holding me back? What distractions need to be removed? What influences need to be added? What environments support my goals? These questions create awareness, and awareness creates improvement. You do not have to redesign your entire life overnight. Small changes matter. Remove one distraction, add one positive influence, create one supportive habit, improve one environment. Small adjustments produce significant results over time. Remember, success is often less about forcing yourself to do better and more about making better behavior easier. That is the power of environment. It quietly shapes actions. It quietly shapes habits. It quietly shapes outcomes. And eventually, it shapes identity. The person who consistently works in an environment built for focus becomes more focused. The person who consistently lives in an environment built for growth becomes more growth-oriented. The environment reinforces the behavior reinforces the identity, and the identity reinforces the future. That is how transformation occurs, not through occasional bursts of motivation, through daily exposure to supportive environments. So beginning today, stop asking only how you can become stronger. Start asking how you can become smarter. How can you design your surroundings to support success? How can you remove unnecessary friction? How can you make positive habits easier? How can you make negative habits harder? Those questions create lasting change. Because highly effective people know something that average people often forget. Environment beats intention. Environment beats intention. Environment beats intention. Master this principle, and success will stop feeling like a constant battle. Your surroundings will begin working for you instead of against you. And when that happens, progress becomes not only possible, it becomes inevitable. You now know the difference between average people and highly effective people. Average people wait. Effective people act. Average people blame. Effective people take ownership. Average people get distracted. Effective people focus. Average people chase motivation. Effective people build discipline. Average people make excuses. Effective people make progress. The truth is simple. Your future will not be determined by what you know. It will be determined by what you repeatedly do. Every habit you've learned in this audiobook is a choice. Every day you either strengthen the habits that build your future or strengthen the habits that destroy it. No one is coming to save you. No perfect moment is coming. No magical burst of motivation is coming. Your life changes the moment your behavior changes. Starting today, choose one habit. Practice it relentlessly for the next 30 days. Then choose another. Then another. Do not listen to this audiobook and stay the same. Become disciplined. Become focused. Become responsible. Become effective. And most importantly, become the person you keep promising yourself you will become.